All right, so Chapter 2-7 is about solving equations with rational numbers. So we're going to be solving equations same as we have been, but this time we're throwing in negatives and fractions and decimals, so you just have to be careful. Remember, you're still using inverse operations. You're going to show your math on both sides, but keep track of those negatives so that you don't lose them throughout the problem. So let's do one quick example. Let's say we have 3/5 W equals 3/16. Okay, so 3/5 times W, we're going to use the inverse operation. So we're going to divide. So we're going to take 3/5 W and we're going to divide it by whatever we were multiplying by, which is 3/5. Whatever we do to one side, we're going to do to the other. So 3/16 divided by 3/5. And then because we're dividing by fractions, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So 3/5 W times 5/3 equals 3/16 times 5/3. We're going to remember to simplify before we multiply. So 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 3 once. 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 5 once. So we're left with 1 times W equals, and then on the other side we're going to simplify again. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 3 once, and we're left with 5/16, and 1 times W, using the identity property, is W equals 5/16. Now let's look at that same problem again. 3/5 W equals 3/16. Now if you were paying attention, what you may have noticed the last time we did that example was that when we're dividing by a fraction, we really end up just multiplying by the reciprocal at some point, right? So why don't we go ahead and do that right off the get-go? If you notice, if we're going to multiply by 5/3 on both sides, multiply by the reciprocal, what property are we using? If we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, we're going to do that on both sides, we are using the inverse property of multiplication. When we multiply 3/5 times 5/3, multiply reciprocals, we get 1. 1 times W. That's the inverse property of multiplication. And so again, we've got 1W equals, and we're going to simplify, equals 5/16. In other words, W equals 5/16 because of the identity property. So if you have a multiplication problem with fractions, use the inverse property, multiply by the reciprocal right away, and you can save yourself some steps, and you'll get the same answer. Now let's try writing an equation for a story problem. Mr. Rios wants to prepare a dessert, but only has 2 2/3 tablespoons of sugar. If each serving of the dessert has 2/3 tablespoons of sugar, how many servings can he make? So let's think about how to represent this situation with an equation. Let's not think about how to solve it yet. Let's just think about how to represent the situation. So if we take the number of tablespoons per serving and multiply that by the number of servings that we're going to have, that should give us the total amount of sugar that we have, total tablespoons. Okay, so that's what we're thinking about in words, and then we have to put in symbols to represent what's going on. So the tablespoons per serving, we're told, are 2/3. Oops, sorry about that. Uh-oh. Okay, let's try this again. So there are 2/3 tablespoons per serving times how many servings? Oh, I don't know. So let's use a variable to represent the thing we don't know. And that should equal the total of 2 2/3 that we have available. Okay, and then we think about how we're going to solve this. It's a multiplication problem, so we're going to divide. Or, if we're paying attention, we're multiplying by a fraction. We can use the inverse property and multiply both sides by 3/2. Multiply by the reciprocal, and then we do the same to the other side, both sides. Okay, and multiplying by a reciprocal is going to result in 1 times x. Now multiplying by a mixed number by a fraction, what do we need to do first? Turn that mixed number into an improper fraction. So 2 times 3 is 6, 6 plus 2 is 8. We have 8/3 times 3/2. Let's do some simplifying before we multiply. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 3 once, 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 8 4 times. So let's clean things up. We have 1 times x is x, and 4 over 1. That's what we have on the right hand side, and finish it out. X equals 4. And then you would finish out by writing a sentence, finish it in a sentence. The question was, if each serving of the dessert has 2/3 tablespoons of sugar, how many servings can he make? So you would answer something like, Mr. Rios can make 4 servings. And we're going to try something a little different today. You're going to have a ticket in the door. So when you walk in the door tomorrow, please have the Think and Discuss problems on page 93 answered. Use complete sentences and use your precise vocabulary. So again, that's page 93, Think and Discuss problems 1 and 2.